up, guys? Jason Godwin here tonight, and tonight we're going to talk about something exciting that you have to do, whether you think it's exciting or not. That is something that you have to do if you want to grow and scale your Christmas light business. And yes, we are at the time of middle of September that it is time that you have to start looking at this if you are looking for employees and building a team more than you. And so if you are at 100,000 or 300,000 and you want to get to 1 million, you have to pretty much do it with employees. And it's not something that you are going to be able to do without having employees. And so that's what we're going to hit on tonight. But before we get there, I had an amazing weekend this weekend. We had an amazing training. We had 21 people show up here for the training this weekend. It was awesome. One of the guys had been to several other trainings, other Christmas light trainings, and he said by far this was the best Christmas light class that he could come to and take back and go back and build his business. And so that was really exciting to hear. And this was even against some big dogs that most people already know, or even that Sean has spoke at. And so these are some really cool things to hear about coming out of the training. There was a guy that had been in pressure washing business for over 20 years, 19 years, and they're looking at starting, and they do several $1 million a year. And even he's like, man, we learned a lot here this weekend that I didn't even think about or know. And that is what I love, helping Christmas lights businesses grow. And that's what makes me excited. So the book of the week is a new book that I'm going to talk about. It just came out like just maybe a couple weeks ago, and it is the No BS Marketing to the Affluent by Mr. Dan Kennedy. If you don't know who Dan Kennedy is, he was the godfather of newsletters and of facts. Back in the day, he used to send facts and copy letters to people, and I think he did over $1 million on it. Of those, was the very first one that actually did that much from sending facts to people to this, and it still works today. So with that, Gemini Adventures put, absolutely loved the training. What a great weekend. Dan from Tampa. So yes, Dan was here. He was sitting on the front row. It was an amazing training. So with that, I'm going to get back to what we're talking about. So first off, Sean, tell me a little bit about who are you, where you're from, what's your kind of background here?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jason. So I'm Sean Day, and I've been self-employed for just shy of about 35 years now, in one way or another. I used to own a cleaning company and had about 42 technicians, and I sold the business in 2015. The company that bought my business, and I stayed on board, and we started buying other cleaning companies, and we got to just under 100 employees. And I told the partners, I said, listen, we really don't know what we're doing with recruiting at this stage, this large. It's getting hard to scale and all that. Even more, we were kind of stuck. And so what we did was we figured out how to recruit. I put a recruiting system together. It worked. We solved our problem. And what had happened was we were at a convention, and a couple buddies of ours were talking, asking us about recruiting. We told them. Long story much shorter is the next thing I know, we're recruiting for hundreds of cleaning companies around the country. And in the last, I'd say really 4 or 5 years, we've really picked up a lot of holiday light, Christmas light hanging companies for that seasonal business, which is a lot different than hiring and different sort of things you can do for that. Yeah, I like Jason. I love the Christmas light stuff. I don't know how you can't be in a good mood doing it. I know it's not easy all the time, but it is a really cool business, and I enjoy helping people. I recruiting for them. We find seasonal help for them, installers, management, anything you need. But my bread and butter and what I love to do is I love to help that guy very much like Jason. That's why Jason and I are really, we can jive really close. I love to see that 100,000 $250,000 guy that's trying to get through that purgatory or that ceiling, get up to the next. And like Jason said at the intro, to get to that $1 million, if that's something that's your goal, you can't really do that without some employees, and that's where we come in.
Awesome. And so let me know. I see I'm having an echo, and if I have to, I'll turn my mic off. And it's probably on my side because it's just is. But if it is, I've turned it down so that way I made it a little bit better. But what are some things as we start looking at what are some things that we need to what are some things that we need to do so that way we can keep growing our business? And one of the questions I get asked a lot is, how do I know when I need to hire my first person?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think once you are in the truck and you are like, you can't market anymore because you're that booked, and you don't want to get in debt. Okay, so we don't want to borrow money to hire people, and I'm not a big fan of debt. I think once you maybe can put aside, at least I would say 5 or 6 months worth of what you would pay that, or maybe one season of paying somebody. Um, in this industry is probably not a bad idea. But I mean, if you're so busy you can't take on any more jobs and book any more jobs, that means you're not going to grow. That means you definitely need somebody else. The question is then, is that an installer first? Is it an admin first? There's a couple schools of thought on that, and I've seen it both ways. But my view is you need to replace yourself and get yourself out of being needing to be there all the time on the job. You need to be focused on growing the business and marketing and that sort of thing.
So, with that said, what's the biggest hiring mistake you see Christmas light owners make right out of the gate?
So I'll tell you the number one problem with most small businesses that we have recruited for almost 10 years now. Okay. And you say it all the time, Jason, and I am absolutely aligned with this. It's mindset. It's that perception. If especially if you've dipped your toe into, or even if you've been around a while, if you've been burned with employee stuff, which who hasn't, okay? Nobody starts a business to say, I love interviews. Gosh, I can't wait to interview. Nobody does that, right? But you're going to have to put aside those problems like no shows. Like that generation doesn't want to work. They're just lazy, this new generation. These younger guys don't want to work. All of those things are a mindset problem. And I can assure you that you need to look in the mirror. You need to be just like, and just like marketing, you don't close 100% of your prospects that call on you for service and pricing. You're not going to close every single one that tries to set up an interview. You're going to have a prospective client contact you and say, boy, I really need some pricing and I'd love to hear about your services. You do it, you think they're ready to sign up with you, and then they ghost you, right? That's okay. You just need to hear about 5 or 6 more of those, because then the next one's going to be a yes. Same thing with recruiting, but it seems, I think it's more in the DNA of an entrepreneur and business owner that we love to talk about the marketing side of the business, and we love to sell, and we close the deal. We're high-fiving the wife and the kids, and we talk revenue. We talk how many trucks we have on the road, how many clients but the recruiting end really takes a back seat. It's like the redheaded stepchild. We don't want to talk about it. We don't like it. And that's a big problem, because I can assure you, you are not going to grow your business without employees if that's what you want to do. Grow and scale a business and become and live that dream. If that's your goal to get to $1 million, you better start looking in the mirror and just understand that no shows are okay to interviews. It's going to happen. We deal in reality. We've got to deal in reality, not what we wish it would be, not what we hope it could be, but what's the reality. And that's the number one thing I see in general, is that mindset. Just go after it. It's not perfect. It's not like bookkeeping, and a debit's a debit, a credit's a credit. it's really muddy. It's really a muddy game recruiting, and that's why you got to keep just going through, and staying course.
So let's say that I did two. Let's say I did 300,000 this year, and I want to grow it, and I need employees. So I can, I always tell people you can get to 400,000 with you and probably one or two helpers, and you can get there fairly. What you can do, maybe one or two crews, and you can get there. But let's say I want to really, I'm going to go all in on my marketing, and I'm going to really ramp up this year, and I need to hire 5 people. What do I need to start doing right now to find out to get these 5 people on? And where am I finding these 5 people at?
Yep. So there's really two. Well, I should say there isn't just two, but you got boots on the ground stuff, right? You can ask past employees or current employees if they know anybody. If you go to church, that's a good place to talk to people at church. If is anybody looking for some seasonal work, does anybody? I always like to use the phrase, "Do you know anybody that's looking for an extra 10 or 15 grand this holiday season?" Right? That's what you're going to pay somebody in general, depending on your part of the country, for a season. So I think that goes a long way. Then hey, do you know anybody that's looking to make $18 an hour or $20 an hour? Right? That 10 or 15 grand sounds a heck of a lot bigger. So I would definitely tell you that's number one, boots on the ground type of thing. The other two main digital ways to do it are Indeed, by far is the number one, the job board, Indeed.com. And then in some parts of the country, Jason, but not all, Craigslist is still a decent place. To in some parts of the country, most people don't use it properly. I really come to use Craigslist really effectively. So that those are the 2 or 3 places you can do it. And then there's some steps that you need to take that most small business owners aren't aware of, unless you've listened to somebody like me that's been doing this for a while, and I've gone through the hard school and all that. You can't just post a job on something and then wait and hope for the best. And it's not just Chat GPT. There's a lot of things that go into a good job ad: creating application flow, speed. How do you screen? Who do you know which one you're supposed to interview? Do you interview all of them? And how do you do how do you do the interviewing? So right now, though, I would say the number one thing you can do is you need to figure out um, where you need to figure out how to put a job ad together. I would say that would be number one. That's like really fundamental, the first step.
So with the job ad, you want to make sure that people understand that they are going to be working outside in the weather, and you want to make
Yeah.
sure that they understand that it is not an office job, that they're sitting inside and it's not cold outside, unless you live in Florida. And even then, 60 degrees is cold for people. And so that is something that we need to make sure that's kind of in that job ad, so that way people don't hire in it. We also need to make sure that they're not afraid of heights and stuff, so that way when they show up, I always talk about the working interview where you have them show up and here's the ladder and we're going to climb this up. We're going to have a safety harness on them so that way we can make sure they're safe. But you're really going to weed out the people really fast if they're going to either show up or not show up. And so these are some things I think that we can definitely do even in 2025, how we can do this. Um, so how do we screen out if which I kind of just hit on this, but how do we screen out the people that are going to flake or waste our time? And is there any red flags that we might want to look for?
Great question. So there's definitely um, certain things you need to uncover about these people. And I think it was maybe Daniel with his comment here. One of the mistakes he made was looking for Christmas light installers. So if you're going to put an ad up in Craigslist or on Indeed or even Facebook, you don't want to necessarily say this is job title Christmas light installer and so on and so forth. To go back just for a second, if I could, Jason, on the job ad part, and then I'll get into the screening here in a couple seconds. you want to use broader terms that are going to reach out to other people. So again, you need to research your labor market. That will help you identify what the best job titles and job descriptions are. There's ways to do that through Indeed. There's other ways that you can do that, and I can certainly talk more about that, either tonight or some other time, or anybody can reach out to me anytime, and I can help you through it. Once you identify the right job titles and keywords, because I can tell you, like soda, pop, much different keywords, if you will, around the country. A sneaker, a tennis shoe. Those things matter in job ads and keywords. Okay, so that's something to Daniel's comment there. He's absolutely right with that. So that's one thing. So let's assume that you got a good job ad, you got a lot of application flow. How do you get through 100 or 150 resumes and applications on Indeed? If you need to hire four and they're number 90, 91, 92, and 93, how are you going to get to those if there's 100 or 150? That's really the question. So there are certain screening questions that you're going to want to ask, and I can give a few examples here in a minute. But the two things you want to absolutely make sure you do is you want to figure out how to screen for attitudes and behaviors. Okay. You got to figure that they need positive attitude at all times, period, end of story. If you have somebody with a positive attitude, I can train pretty much anybody if they've got a positive attitude, as long as they're, to Jason's point, not afraid of heights. They can deal with ladders and things like that. Those aren't attitude issues. Those aren't behavior things, right? If somebody does great on a working interview on a ladder and everything, but they're an Eeyore and they're complaining all the time, we don't want them, right? So you got to have all of it. If you want to hire a rock star, that's what you're looking for: behaviors, good attitudes. And when I talk about good behaviors, they're showing up on time. Those are good behaviors, right? They're helping other people, they're team players. So there's a lot of ways that you can screen and ask about that on an online application. You can ask questions on an online application. You can put some questions on Indeed that'll help screen people out a little bit. I don't think Indeed's real good with that, but there's things like Google Forms, Jot Forms that allow you to ask those types of behavioral questions.
So, what are some questions that we might want to ask them so that way we can get some better attitude
Yeah.
people?
I'm going to give you a couple really good secret saucers, man. And these are worth tons of money. I'll give you. Let me give you the one to let you to find out if they're going to last the season or not. Remember, now I'm going to put an asterisk next to this. This is a money game. It's not a perfect thing, but it really works about 80% of the time or so. That's what we find for almost every single client I've recruited for in 33 different states. Perfect? No. But here's one question we ask, and I highly recommend that you don't ask. We don't ask any, but if you ask, no open-ended questions on an online application. In other words, describe this or tell me the story about this, because 80% or more are applying on a phone. We don't want to be texting paragraph after paragraph after paragraph on an open-ended question. And unless you're looking to hire a good BSer, okay, then ask open-ended. I rather do a drop-down menu. So when I ask a question, they have to choose one of my three answers. That gives me a lot more control on what I'm trying to uncover. So here's an example of how we find out if they're going to last the season or not. We ask this question: what would upset you the most if you got this job? Remember the drop-down menu. What would upset you the most if you got this job? One of the answers they can ask or answer is: someone's always late to work and the owner or manager of the company doesn't even seem to care. Very reasonable answer. I show up 15 minutes early every day. Fred shows up 20 minutes late every day. Jason doesn't seem to care about it. Why am I showing up early? Why am I? So here's the problem, though. When we're looking at data and recruiting and trying to uncover things, I don't want to get emotional. I don't want Sean's gut feeling. I don't want any of that. I want to know the data. For us, the data on that question, for those that answer, someone's always late to work and the owner or manager doesn't say a thing about it, almost never last an entire season when we had a couple Christmas-like companies. And I'll tell you the reason why. And the reason I know why is because we had hired thousands and thousands of people that answered this question. So we knew kind of who they were. And we had other business owners helping us put together. They know who their people were. And what we found, the common denominator with these people is that they tend to run their mouth and gossip, and they love stirring the pot, and they love drama. And I can't think of two worse behaviors I would want roaming around my office or in front of clients or in front of any other employees. So you really, and I'll tell you very quickly why that is. Now this is just Sean's experience. This is no data behind this. I think the reason that they tend to be gossipers and run their mouth and they like drama and stuff is because if I said, Jason, if you hire me, I'm going to be really upset. That's quite literally the question. What would upset you the most is the question, right? I'm going to be really upset about what other people are doing or what other people are not doing. When I'm mad about people things, like most of us, I tend to run my mouth a little too much about it because I'm upset about people things. Unpack what I just said. That's the definition of gossip and drama. I mean, that's what it is. So that's one way, one question to find out if they're going to last the season or not. And I'll give you one more. I'll give you more than that, but I don't want to run out of time with this one issue. This one is worth tens of thousands of dollars, so everybody steal it, please. It's rate your luck in life. 0 is horrible luck, and 10 is great luck. Rate your luck in life. The magic number is under 6. Those that answer under a 6 hardly last a month with our company, 2 months, something like that. Okay, we made a mistake. It's a nightmare. Run from them. They are super negative. But not only that, because that's obvious, right? They're kind of complaining and negative, right? But they take zero ownership when things go wrong. It is never their fault. They are never late to work. It's the alarm clock. It's the owner's fault. It's the customer's fault. It's your equipment. It's the lights. It's never their fault. That's a nightmare person. That's nightmare behavior to have around your office and around you. Now, there's 2 exceptions to that rule. Number 1 is it's almost always a 5 or a 0, but it's the only question I ask them to explain their answer, and here's why. One exception to the under 6 rule is I don't believe in luck. I believe in working hard. I believe in being honest. And if you give me the chance to work for you, I'll work hard and I'll be honest. I can't think of a better answer than that. So that's one exception to the under 6 rule. And it's usually a 5 or a 0 all the time because they're trying to neutralize the luck thing. The other exception to the rule is what I would call a one-off. It's under 6. The score is under 6 and rate your luck in life. And they answer something like this. Normally, I'm blessed in life, great friends and family, but I just found out my mom's got cancer. I'm not feeling too lucky. Or, but my daughter got in a car accident. I'm not. So as long as they answer normally, they're blessed and life is good, and there was sort of a one-off situation, I'm going to forgive that. I mean, I'm not going to judge somebody on that. That question will save you a ton of aggravation, that one question alone.
So let's move on to another question that I get asked a lot of times. Should we do it W-2 or 1099?
I would highly recommend a W-2. When you do a 1099, you lose a lot of control. In some, depending on what you do and how you do it, it's illegal, and the IRS will come after you, and that's not a good thing in a lot of cases. You also lose a lot of control because you're not able to legally train them and do certain things, have them wear uniforms. You're not supposed to tell them what their hours are. So there's a lot of conflict with the 1099 thing and the W-2 thing. And I suppose it depends on your state a little bit. California is a little different with some 1099 stuff. But I will tell you that if you're looking to be a small business owner, an entrepreneur, and grow and scale a business, you want a culture You want some core values with that business. You want a vibe at your business. You want to be able to train them to do it your way, not the cheap guy down the road way. You want to be create an empire for yourself, and you want to grow a business, and you want to nurture employees, and you want to take care of people. And I think that I've seen that the most successful route.
So, if you all have a question about hiring or not, I know I've got some in here. I will go through them here and answer your questions. So, if you have a question, put them in there, put it in the comments, put what your thoughts are. Put some, if you've had some employees that, make you want to pull your hair out. I haven't, I had three employees one time, or actually it was four employees. They all were friends and nobody showed up one day. And one employee was sleeping with the other employee's wife or girlfriend, and they all
Right.
got in a big fight. And it's one of those things that you just get the joys of it. And so Carrie asked a question here. Carrie asked a question. I don't know if I'll be able to pull it up because sometimes this is being weird. But
Yeah.
Carrie asked a question: if I hire a guy and we finish up the week quicker now, should we knock doors with the extra time if we have extra money to pay to ramp up the quotes and getting sent out? And I would say you should be doing extra quote. You should be doing your 5 rounds and 10 rounds on every job, not when you don't have time because you got done. And so I think this is something that you can start ramping it up in the beginning of it too. So I think that it is definitely something that as you start ramping up, you need to, as you start hiring, it's about putting systems in place. And I know you do lawn care, even lawn care. I would be going out trying to get more yards and putting 5 rounds and 10 rounds because if they see you enough, they're going to buy from you. So that's my thought. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. It should be something that's part of the system and processes, and it should be consistent. Regardless of where you're at in busyness, those systems are put in place and processes to be able to do the right things at the right time, no matter how busy you are or how busy you are not. Um, and directly to answer Carrie's question, I don't see any harm in doing that whatsoever if you've got the money to do it. As long as it's income producing, I think it's a safe bet. To have somebody in the office just not producing revenue, though, I don't know that I would do that.
Correct. Nathan asked a good question too, and I hear this a lot. Should we be looking for roofers? I can't find people who aren't afraid of roofs. Ladders are one thing, and roofs is another. But even if I'm doing the thing where I said I was going to take the ladder and put it up, they're still going to tie. I'm still going to tie them off. I'm still going to put them up on the roof because, like you said, I agree, Nathan. Doing the ladder is one thing, but getting on the ladder to the roof and it's one of those things too that you're seeing if that employee is going to listen and you're going to give him some instructions on how to make a male and a female and go up there and do it. And so these are things that are definitely important that we look at. And I think that yes, roofers are good, but sometimes roofers always ain't the best. But you do need someone that will be able to get up on a roof and safely get up on a roof. And most of the time, roofers are that person. As you have hired for many companies, what's your thoughts on this here, Sean?
Yeah, it's a good question. I sort of call it a bridge employee, if you will, sometimes. So if it's a landscaper, think of the people that you want to hire. You want to make sure they're outdoor people. You want to make sure that they like working outdoors. They're not afraid of heights and that sort of thing. I think it's really important to make sure that once you do the attitudes and behaviors, that as a recruiting guy, if I'm putting a job ad together, I always go into other industries in my job ad. And I use that for keyword purposes because a lot of people have no idea that you can make good money seasonally hanging Christmas lights. I mean, this industry has been around a while, and Jason, you know better than me, but I don't think it's been like really hot until the last couple of years, maybe 3, 4, 5 years. There's not a lot of people that think they can make the type of money you guys are paying them. And I think in order to reach out to that type of person that isn't aware, you need to make them aware. So, for example, on Indeed, you've got to put certain keywords in Indeed, because those keywords, when some job seeker in your labor market in your area types in certain words for a job search, we want to make sure that if somebody's looking for a snowplow job, okay, because they need to make some money. And by the way, I've not met a guy that's been doing snowplow for more than a year or two that loves to snowplow. Okay, I don't. I mean, you being on call, Christmas Day, all that stuff. That's a nightmare. And I'm in the snow belt in Cleveland, Ohio. I know a lot of snowplow guys. All right. I will tell you that you will have luck with somebody that can make as much money or more money on a schedule, not on call, and working outside. Okay. So in my job ad, in the first paragraph, how do you do that without sounding ridiculous, right? So you in the first paragraph, we hire from other industries such as roofing, snowplow, landscape, whatever outdoor hard working guy or gal might be like. That's what you want to put in there.
So Nathan asked another good question, and this is, what do you say on paying percentage or per the hour? And I don't know if I know you hire for other people. And then he also posted, if you're posting an ad, can you put an offer percentage in there? And like I said, I think that's going to be different. I know people that pay by the hour, 25, $30 an hour for roofers or whatever. I know people that paid $45 an hour. I also know people that have paid, 80 cents to a dollar per foot, and that way
Yeah.
it's more of a performance base. But on the recruitment side, what are your two thoughts on the pay and how we can post that in there?
When it comes to posting pay, you definitely want to post paid, because people, you'll lose application flow. People aren't going to apply for jobs if they don't know what the pay is, or at least a range. In the Christmas light industry, in this space, I highly recommend, because let me step back. The job ad is just that. It's an ad. We're trying to attract people to work for our business. Very much like a website. It's an ad to try to get people to sign up for service, or to get your branding out there, right? So we want to make sure that we don't confuse people. Most people are used to an hourly paycheck, not a percentage pay, not a we're going to pay you by the foot. I think I think you need to put what you think that guy is going to make or gal over the entire season. And I'll go back and say it again. If do you need an extra 12 or 15 grand this holiday season over the next couple months? That that is attractive. That's a sale. Okay. Now that's from recruiting. Okay, Jason, that's recruiting in the ad, and the recruiting that I would do, and how in the process I would use, or the idea and tactic I would use. When it comes to the real life paycheck and how you pay somebody, however you want to do it, I highly recommend on some sort of production or performance for sure. That's a win-win for both a high producer and a great employee and the business.
So with that, how do I keep my people coming back year after year? My best guy from last season, I'm not talking to. I can't get a hold of him. What are some things that I can do that I can get them back? And some of it is pay, but what are some other tips of how do we get these guys back year after year?
So great question. So everything I do in recruiting, give me a sentence with the word marketing in there, and I'll take the word marketing out and I'll replace it with the word recruiting. Tell me what you do with clients that maybe aren't using you right now. Maybe they used you last year. You're constantly trying to build a relationship. If you really know how to market, and you listen to the things Jason tells you, your email campaigning out, you're maybe texting nowadays out, you're whatever, you're just making contact. You're going to sporting events and talking it up. You're doing all kinds of things. You're talking about your business. You're at church talking about it. You're volunteering. You're helping the little league team in the summer, not in the winter. And I'm talking about it all the time. Just I I will tell you, if you find somebody that produces, 150, $200,000 of revenue for you, which that's what a really, really good installer can do. I'd be buying that guy lunch over the summer. If you're going to produce $200,000, $150,000 for me, I'll take you to a ball game. You're going to see the Guardians. I mean, I will. That is how to grow a business right there. That's how to build a culture. Okay. And at the worst case scenario, you were just taking care of one of God's kids and being nice and kind. That's not a bad thing either. But building that relationship when they're not working for you, I think is huge.
Let's talk about culture because I think that is a big thing that's kind of a can be a buzzword, but what are some things like culture? What do we mean and what do you mean by the word culture?
I love that. So, culture to me, in simple terms, is sort of what I would call the vibe of your business, your company. What's the vibe? What is that atmosphere and environment like when they come to work for you? And I'll give you a couple examples of clients that I have and business owners I know. So I've got some that like sort of a corporate type of. I've got an organizational chart with hierarchy and it's corporate language and they really want to run a tight ship and that works fine for them. I've got another guy that says if I wouldn't have a beer with you, I don't want you to work for me. And he has a cooler and they have maybe a beer or two after work and go home. He's
You're
got a
talking about
pinball
Dan
machine.
Platten. You know who you're talking about.
That's one of them. You better like to hunt fish and like light beer. That's his culture, and he's got very very nice business doing bookkeeping. So, but those are two different vibes, two different cultures. Both can work, so that's up to you. I think culture is very very important. I think having core values that everybody knows and understands is even more important. I've been really, really, really pumped up on talking about and coaching core values for about the last 8 or 9 months, more so than I mean, I'm really passionate about it now.
Let's talk about that because I like core values, right? Because if you don't have core values, you can't use that for your business to grow and scale because sometimes things may go against your core values and you're just doing it because it's easy or you probably shouldn't be doing it. So let's hit on a little bit of core values because I'm right with you on the core value side of things. And a
Yep.
lot of businesses, that's something and I believe that's something that when you're at, 100, 300, 400,000, you're not thinking about core value. You're just
Right.
thinking about, I'm on the truck. What do I got to do to get off this truck? And you're not thinking about core values. But I really do believe that you're going from that 3 to 400,000 to a million to 2 million. Core values and vision are huge for your business. So let's hit on that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I think and it's not just the Christmas light industry. It's pressure washing, window cleaning, maid service, whatever. Most small businesses I talk to, and I talk to small business owners literally every day, Monday through Friday at least. And I will tell you that most don't have core values or culture really, not a formal one. And those that do can't they don't have them memorized by any means. They don't know they might have it somewhere on a wall somewhere, and that's it. So core values to me. Remember, I'm hyper focused on the employee side of business. In fact, our mission statement for Hire Lead Chill, which is the company that I have, our mission statement is to match great employees with great businesses and to solve our clients' employee problems. That's my mission. The reason it is because after over 30 years of being self-employed, I know that 98% of my stress in business comes on the employee side, not on the customer side. I don't like losing customers. I don't like complaints. I don't like that stuff. But if you listen to Jason, you go to his training, you do those processes and systems, you'll be okay on that end. Okay. Employee side, I'm telling you, your wife will be drafting up divorce papers if you don't get the employee side figured out because you're going to be stressed out. So core values. All of us have our own core values, and that's fine. And I think you should. And I think your business and your core values for your personal life should overlap into your business life. I truly believe that. Positive attitude, loyalty, whatever it is. But what do we do with that? We don't just talk about it. We just don't memorize it. I've thought about this very hard, and we now have clients and business owners that I coach and work with that are growing their business crazy because of this. They are using their core values as the constitution or the Bible of their business. And your job as the owner on the employee side of your business should be, to some extent or another, I think a huge extent, should be, I have the job of making this the best place for my employees to work in the world. And the way that we do that, employees, is that we have these 4 or 5 core values we call the Constitution. And when anybody steps outside of the Constitution, all you're doing is screwing over your fellow employees. Loyalty, let's say that's a core value, which it is with one of ours. That's our core, one of our core values. And I tell our people, our employees, it has nothing to do with me as the owner. You don't have to be loyal to me. I don't even care if you're loyal to the clients at this point. But I do know you've got to be loyal to one another. You cannot be screwing over your fellow employee. You can't be bad mouthing, gossiping, name calling, immature nonsense. You have got to hug each other. You got to love each other. You got to climb walls for each other. You got to be loyal to each other, because I know if that happens, I don't have to worry about me, my business, or the customer. If you guys come to work every day and love to come to work, and you stay within that constitution of taking care of one another, that's my main job as a business owner in my eyes.
So, with core values, let's move on to another thing. When should I hire a crew leader? At what point should I hire crew versus a crew leader and try to manage everything myself? So basically, when am I firing myself as the manager of everything and I'm putting a person that is going to take that lead?
So you've got to you've got to figure out, are you going to do the training? Are you going to send them to get trained somewhere with Jason? Are you going to have Jason come to you? Is the lead going to be the trainer? So that's one thing. Or is the lead just going to manage that job? And Jason, I'd be curious on your view, because I've seen it a couple different ways. But I would say that I like to do everything I can not to hire a team lead. I like to hire an installer and train them to become a lead. I think that hiring and that training, because then you know who you have, and you've got somebody that's within the core values. That's my view on it, and that might be tough to do on a seasonal basis over 4 months, and then that whole season kind of goes away. That might be a little bit more difficult, but if you can hire from within and train from within and promote from within, I think that builds at least some sort of a career ladder, and even on a short-term basis. That's my view on it.
My thing on it would be the side of not everyone's a leader. And so are you building leaders in your company? Or are they just, that person that's going out for you? And when I mean a leader, you got to be able to lead other people. And I think that's the ticket to it is how do we lead people and we train them and we give them and we build leaders? I think a lot of times technicians aren't always the best leaders
Right.
because they're a great technician. It's not that they can't become a good leader, but they got to want to be a good leader, and you got to build a good leader. And I think that's the key. And I think that as you are looking and growing, and as you are figuring out who is your good leaders, and sometimes it ain't always the brown noser or the person that they might be doing a lot behind, you don't even know it's happening and it's getting done. And those are your good leaders at the end of the day. And sometimes it don't always come out that they're the leader. They might just be that person over there. And I think that is definitely when we really got to look at who am I hiring? Who am I finding and bringing back, and who is going to help us grow the business at the end of the day.
I
Uh,
love that. Yeah,
Jim
I
and I
couldn't
have,
agree more. I've made that mistake. I've brought in I made it a couple times years ago where and it was for good intentions. I was trying to promote somebody that was a really good technician, and they just wanted to be a technician, and that's okay. That's okay to really enjoy that and not and want to just do that every day and get a good paycheck and go home and take care of the family. And here I am trying to promote this person that had no business leading people, had no business managing people, and they just didn't have those leadership skills and didn't want to do it. That's the other thing. They didn't want it. I've done that with a salesperson too, guys. I've had a really, really good salesperson that was just, I'm like, dude, you're like the best salesperson. I want you to be a manager. I want you to teach people how to do what you do. And most, I mean, salespeople have that personality and that sort of, that step in their, in their, they got that swag in their step a little bit, and that's what salespeople are like. Sometimes they have no business managing people. They just don't have that type of skill set. And I've made that mistake too, where I've tried to promote somebody into a whole different new position that they have no business being in, and didn't really want it either.
So if we're looking for someone that's in the office versus a person that is out there, would you look at doing a this assessment or a personality assessment, or what are your thoughts on the assessments out there that can help maybe figure out if that is the right fit or not for you? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we have our own that we have based on some data, so that's I'm a little bit prejudiced with ours. Disc profile is good. There's some predictive indexes good. There is one that's really good, and I don't remember the name of it, but if you Googled it, and we have it and we use it, and it's basically like an animal one. Like you answer these questions, and the one is a beaver, so that's like a good admin person. They're busy, they're detailed, they're building the house. And one's like some sort of a lion, so that's your salesperson, right? They're out hunting all the time. They're hunting for new business, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's really, really good one. If you Googled it and kind of come up with the animal assessment, personality assessment, you'll find it.
Good. So what if you were looking for, if you maybe you want to look for some door knockers? What would be some things that where we could find door knockers, and when should we start looking for these type of people that I know they need to be out on the street now, so that way we could sell it now. But what are your thoughts on hiring door knockers?
I think it's great if once you get to a certain point, I think because you have to be able to afford it. I think the pay is tricky on it. A lot of companies come to me and say, I want to hire somebody 100% commission. In today's atmosphere, in today's world, it's sometimes hard to do that because you can make pretty good money at Home Depot, commercial desk, the pro desk, and make some pretty good money with benefits and all that stuff and a salary and all that. Okay. So if you can do some sort of draw on commission and assure that they're at least going to make a little bit of money, I'm not talking they have to have a base salary of 50 grand a year or something like that, but you have to have something and reward them highly on a commission basis so that if they don't hit that commission, you're not going to keep them around anyway for more than a month because you got the wrong person. But I think a door-to-door guy needs to be just somebody that is very much okay with no. They're okay with a door slammed on them. They really have to be somebody that doesn't take offense, that understands what sales is, and they don't mind going out there, and they love being rewarded, and they love talking about Christmas lights. And not the product, not the lights, but the emotion, the vibe on it. Your grandkids would love this, and oh my gosh, let me show you this. And they really, one of the best sales people I ever knew was my mom, and she never knew she was a salesperson. She was used to be called a secretary. She was a receptionist at my aunt and uncle's party center. And I remember as a kid growing up, I would go there sometimes if we didn't have a babysitter and stuff. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. And I would listen to her on the phone, and oh, the chicken piccata, you gotta, and she's selling a $20,000 wedding. And you got to come in here. This was and you've got to taste this. And we just had a wedding last week and they had this. And she would sell, but she knew the food. She tasted she wasn't selling just the chicken, but she was selling the atmosphere. We can do this. What does the bride want? We can make this the best wedding and experience. That's the type of door knocker, because it's not just knocking, here's a pamphlet or, blah, blah, blah. You really have to love people, be okay with no's, because if you're not going to last very long.
So if I got to 500,000 and I did it with one little crew and myself, or it's very skeleton, and I want to go to 1,000,000, how many people do I need and how do I manage them?
I think that depends if you're doing a lot of commercial or residential. So I mean, it's hard to tell that. I know this for sure, that my business partner, Dan Plata, does a lot of bookkeeping for a lot of Christmas light clients. And he has told me that you should be able to get $175,000 to $200,000 out of a really good installer. Okay, somewhere in there. All right. So what does that take to get to 1,000,000? 5, right? So you're around 4, somewhere in there, about 4 or 5 guys. So maybe you got your couple crews, and then somebody. Maybe you're in the office more, or you got a couple salespeople to get the next. It really is about 4 people, installers that are out there taking care of things.
I was going to say 4 installers with a helper on each one, so you're probably looking at about 8 to 10 people is where you're going to be at.
Right, crews, right. Yeah, if you're working in teams of 2.
All right, so tell me how you can help people get employees.
Sure. So, number one, we are much different than any other recruiting company out there, even those that are in the home service space. Number one, we started this business model 10 years ago. So nobody has done, we invented it, quite literally. And I'm saying that very, with much humility, okay? Because we were very blessed to put this together. We did it organically. We did it for our own company. We didn't say, how can we make profit off of all these business people we know? We did it organically, and people came to us asking us how we do this. And then we said, I think we literally had people that were asking us to recruit for them without having a recruiting company. So I think that, I just think that's important to know where we came from and who we are. So that's number one. What the number one thing that we do differently is our elevator pitch is this. We want to be your full-time recruiting department, even if it's for 1 month or 2 months. I want to be your full-time. So if I'm going to be your recruiting director and my team's going to be your full-time recruiting department, you better expect some things from us. I want you to picture me right down the hall from your office or your house, in your house. I'm going to help you research your labor market, not help you, we're going to do it for you. So we research your labor market to understand what should this job ad say? What are the keywords it should say? Is your pay okay? We'll look into that a little bit. What's your competition up to? What do we need to do? We read other job ads of your competition to see what they have that you might not have. So I want to understand your labor market as though I owned your business. That's how I view that. So that's fundamental. Nobody else does that. Number two, we're going to put the job ad together for you, because I know what to do with that job ad, and it's not just ChatGPT. ChatGPT, there's no AI today that goes inside of Indeed and understands their algorithms when they change, what the keyword should be, and all. Indeed is extremely protective of their data. That does not happen. So you got to do more than ChatGPT, okay? So we're pros at that. Then what we do is we're going to have a strategy, because I'm your full-time recruiting department. I better have a strategy on how you're going to execute for your hiring needs, whether it's 1 person or 10. We've done 40. Okay. So anything in between there, we do it all. At that point, we're going to create application flow. We've got little strategic things and tactical things on how to build application flow. One of those things is you're going to need to budget. Most likely, you're going to need to budget for some boosting and sponsoring of job ads if you're hiring more than one person. You might be able to get away with some free stuff if you're only hiring one person or even maybe two. And that's fine. We can talk to you about that. But we'll help you put a budget together on what we feel you might need to budget just for the boosting and sponsoring of job ads. And we're going to recommend that to you. We make no money when you boost and sponsor job ads. Indeed sure as hell does. So they want you to spend more money. We know how to use Indeed better than any home service business in the country. I've been doing it a long time and I know them and I know what they need and what. So we'll help you spend your money and you get a better return on that investment in the boosting and sponsoring of job ads. And we do it incrementally, and there's some secret sauce to that. Once you build the application flow, we have our own proprietary screening system. I've just touched on a little bit, gave you some questions from it. There's about 20 questions we ask. It only takes them 4 minutes to finish it. But man, do we uncover a lot about behaviors and attitudes in those 4 minutes. Okay. We've got some knockout questions. We train on how to interview. And I think Jason makes a really, really good point. I wouldn't spend a lot of time on a bunch of phone interviews and then a Zoom interview and then bring them in for a one-on-one interview. By that time, they're going to be no showing. They're going to be, you're going to have to, you'll be a month in by the time all that happens. You're going to decrease your odds. You need to move quick. So screen them, maybe one quick interview, and a good interview, a thorough interview. We have a completely different way to interview. But then I'd be getting them out there and doing the job interview, or what I like to call an evaluation. When Jason talks about going out and getting them up on the ladder and making sure that they're comfortable, I try to tell our clients, stay away from calling that a working interview. We all know that's what it is, but we want to make sure that we're looking through the eyes and ears of our possible great employees that we're going to hire. So this is Fred. We want you to come in because I want to show you what we do. I want you to see what we do. It's pretty exciting. And you're going to get Fred up on that ladder like Jason said, but we're going to say to Fred, not it's a working interview and you're going to have to prove yourself worthy of working for us. That's not real appealing for Fred. But Fred, what if we said this is so much fun. I got to show you. We're going to go out today. And by the way, I want you to make sure you evaluate what we do today, Fred, because I want to make sure it's a good fit for you. I want you to wake up every morning and love to come to work here. So make sure that you really are getting into what we're showing you and what you're going to be doing day in and day out. And that's really it. And I don't know what else, honestly, I don't know what else you can do to screen, vet, and figure out if this person's going to be right for you.
No, that's a good point. And I love the way um, I love the way that you talk about it, that it's not just an interview, right? It's not a working interview. It's a evaluation of it. Because, it's all about the words we speak and the way we say it. And I say this even, and you even say it kind of for the marketing side of things, right? The marketing side of it is it's the same thing with marketing, whether I'm marketing for a Christmas like customer or a crush or a hiring someone, because what is the view for my customer? I'm not giving the benefits of what they're getting. I'm going to sell them the features of, actually, I'm selling the benefits, not the features. And so I'm doing the same thing with doing the Christmas like stuff too. And so I think hiring is one that a lot of people they get overwhelmed with. They kind of put their head in the sand and they're like, well, if I put my head down here, I won't have to worry about it. And
Right.
that's the worst thing you can do. That's the worst thing that you can do, because that's not going to get you where you want to be at, is putting your head down in the sand and hoping it goes away. It does take time, right? It isn't something that is just going to happen. It's just, you got to go out there and find the right people and network with the right people and find out who, you never know. They might be someone that they own a business and they have employees that they got to lay off because it's wintertime. And so now you can hire these people and you can put these people in place. And so it's a good thing to look at and network and find out who might be a good fit for you, and how can we get them back year after year. I know other people that do this year after year, and they come back year after year because they made the 15, $20,000 in 2 months, and they're like, well, yeah, I'm going to come back because I made more here than I made all year. And so I think it's really neat to see as people grow their business and as people start building those relationships and working and building and working and building. And it's just a neat thing to see. 1,500 yard signs this year, two teams using
Wow.
Simply True door hangers, SOP in place, ready to do 300,000. Let's go. Let's go. I agree. Let's do it. Actually, I was going to ask something on along those lines. Um, what was I going to ask? Oh, please. I don't remember now. I lost my train of thought. But um, so, what is some words of encouragement before we jump off here?
So, whatever your place is in your business, whatever you're a beginner, you're just trying to get your first employee, or if you hire 10 a season or whatever it is, just keep the same mindset you do in marketing for recruiting. You really, it's a numbers game. There's processes and systems. It's so important that you either need to definitely put a system together, test it and true and prove it, put a great system together, or outsource it. That's it. That it's that important. You can't fumble through recruiting. You can't do that. If you put, I can't tell you how many hundreds of thousands of dollars I have seen small business owners in this industry leave on the table because they don't know how to recruit and hire. Turning money away because you don't have enough people to do the installs. I mean, that to me is just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And if you've been burned or you've had trouble hiring in the past and you really don't, and you need to do it, but you're really having problems with it, reach out to me and I'll be happy to talk to you about it. I'll show you what we do. You can steal everything I show you and try it internally. If you have time to do it, do it. I have no problem with that. And I'll support that, and you can get a hold of me and I'll help you. Or I'll give you some pricing, some service options, and I can do it, and my team can do it for you. That's how I operate. At the end of it, steal what I show you if you want, or for a few $100 a month, I'll do it for you. Either way, I don't care. But that's the words of encouragement. And I will tell you this: we place thousands and thousands of installers every season. So there's no excuse that they're not out there. There's no excuse that they're not hard workers. The only excuse that I will allow you, as humbly as I can say this, that I will allow anybody out there is the excuse of I didn't look in the mirror. Because that's the problem. 80, 90, 100% of the time. 100% of the time.
I think that's why me and Sean get along so good because we both kind of have the belief of this. But back to one other thing, right? I hear so many people be like, man, there ain't no good in people out here anymore. I've been through 10, 20 people, and I always tell people maybe you ought to look in the mirror because the common denominator is you, right? And I've seen this over and over and over. And I know Sean, if you call him, if you set up a phone call with him, he will talk with you, he will help you. Him and I got kind of the same the mindset of I give everything away for free. I've
Yep.
literally, if you watch my channel, you will hear me say things that people pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for, and I've helped people grow. And I'm one that I'm here to help you grow your business, right? And so, yes, is there things that I do paid that will help you get there faster and you're going to get it? Sure, there is, but I am willing to help you. I've actually had a thread in my Facebook page this week or today, and I was shocked. Like I was reading it and it was shocking to me because I didn't ask for it. I didn't even ask at all for it. And people were saying about how I've helped them grow their business and how one guy's like, I've been following Jason's podcast for years and I've never bought a thing from him. And I reached out to him this week and he got back to me within 30 minutes or an hour. And I
Yep.
help people, right? I'm willing to help people. And so Sean is the same way when we're dealing with um, Sean is the same way when we're dealing with hiring and recruiting and anything along those lines. And so, if you need help, reach out. I put his website in the description. You can check out his stuff. He has a podcast too where he talks about recruiting and bringing different things on. And it's important, right? A lot of times we don't realize how important these things are. The thing that I see is a lot of times people will be like, Jason, I ain't got no more spots. And it's November 1st. I've got all my spots filled in. I'm like, you're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. You needed to hire somebody or raise your prices a long time ago. And the guy I'm thinking about this one is he needed to raise his prices and hire people, right? He needed to do
Yep.
both because he's like, I only got 4 spots left for the whole year. And I'm like, well, you're losing a lot of money out then because November is the month that you need it to be wide open and hammer down in November because that's the time that it's the busiest. So with that, I hope you all have an amazing week. Again, we had an amazing class this week. I'm going to have a couple more classes coming up. One in Cincinnati. I'll be in Houston, christmaslights.io/IP. If you need any Christmas lights, let me know. christmaslight.io. Don't put the S on it. It'll take you to my website. I'm actually building another website for it. So you'll be seeing something a little bit different coming up in the next week or two. So I'm excited for that. But with that, go be great this week. That's what I'm going to tell you. Go be great this week. People always want to talk about different things. The only attitude you can change is you. So go with it with a great attitude, and you'll be surprised how much you can accomplish and how much you can grow by having a great attitude. The people that sit there and tell me you can't do it in my area, the people that tell me that their competition is not charging, you're not being great. You're worrying about everybody else. The only person that you can be great is you. So go be great this week. Take action and make things happen. And the actions you take cannot be worrying about your competitors because that's not action that we can actually do. The only action we can do is go out there and take action. When we get through the peak calls, so far I put out 100-yard signs and got around 8 to 10 calls. Thank you. Yeah, and we're still early. So just so people know, we are still way early for Christmas lights. You won't start getting a lot till October, and then November is when it really ramps up. So don't get discouraged. We're still way early. I know you're going to see people talking about closing big jobs, but they've been in the business for 3, 5 years, and they're closing past customers. They're closing all of those things. So don't get discouraged if you aren't getting a whole lot right now. But we are early. So that's why I don't tell people to put out a lot of signs right now. 25, 50 a week, 100 for the month, 200 for the month. That's why I don't tell you to put out until 100 a week till October, November, because that's when the phone's going to ring and start making it happen. So, Sean, thank you for coming on tonight. I love talking about um, marketing, but recruiting is just as important as marketing. And I know you love talking about recruiting. And
Yep.
so it is something that you got to know how to do. And if you haven't recruited, if you haven't hired nobody, reach out to Sean. He won't bite at you too hard. He'll help you out, I promise you. And with that, you all have a great night, and we'll see you all later. Hang on, Sean.